I'm Amy Bruce. I'm the director of Whiz Kids. Whiz Kids is an after-school faith-based mentoring program and literacy tutoring. It's been around for about 27 years. We partner with churches all around Oklahoma City and provide after-school tutoring and mentoring, like I said, to students who are identified by their classroom teachers as being at risk for literacy failure. And so we know how important literacy is in determining a trajectory of a child's success in school and even life. And so we believe that the literacy tutoring is an important part of what we do, but that one-on-one mentoring is where we actually see the biggest changes. Not just for the kids, but also for our mentors. Having somebody show up consistently every week and love on these kids and show them that they're valued and that they're safe and cared for actually turns the lives around of so many kids. They perform better in the classroom. Their parents tell us they behave better at home. They just have more hope. And that's really what Whiz Kids is about. Our Whiz Kids sessions start a couple of weeks after school starts. We give time for those teacher liaisons. We have a teacher liaison at every single school. He or she will work with the classroom teachers in their building to identify students for our program. When the students come into our program, they go to a site at 1 day a week after school. And when they get there, they're fed a healthy meal and they meet their mentor, they hug, they greet each other, they eat a meal together, and then we do what's called a club time session for about 20 to 30 minutes. And that is a character-based or faith-driven lesson that just, covers biblical principles, talks about how they're loved, how they're cherished, how important they are. And then they will go into that one-on-one hour of literacy tutoring with their mentor. And then our mentors typically take our children home in pairs, of course, for safety. And the reason we do that is because we think it's important for our mentors to know where our children live and to get to know those families as much as possible. And so there's meaningful conversations that happen during those car rides and those drop-off times that you don't get just sitting at the session. And so a lot of times relationships are born there between the mentor and the students' families that wouldn't happen if it was just happening at the site. Our site coordinators are very strategic. We have volunteer site coordinators at each church, and they will work with that teacher liaison from the school. So they'll identify the address, they'll create a map, and then they kind of figure out, where the kids live, and then they'll partner up mentors and kids together. And so there's always at least 2 adults and 2 kids in the car. And so usually, they're dropping off the kids in the same area together. So nobody's ever alone. And it works out well. I'm actually in our Whiz Kids library now, so I can kind of show you. Let me walk around. So this is our Whiz Kids library. You'll see here that we have things like a 4. So these are 4th grade books. And then we have 5th grade books all the way down to like 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. So the kids choose their books based on their initial testing data at their school. And that's what that teacher liaison provides. So she'll come back and she'll say, okay, little Susie's on 1.3. And so our books are all labeled between 1 and 6. So they just find a book that corresponds with the level they're on and read it with their mentor. We keep this library here at our office so our sites can come shop when they need new books. Like if they get students and they don't have enough 4th grade books, they can always come here and replenish their site. And we also give them new books usually every August, and at Christmas we'll do a book. And so we just try to keep giving them new things because, books do get torn up, but we think it's really important to have the book in their hand. We also do, this was something new this year. This is our literacy card. I don't know if you can see it. we gave every site, we got a grant, and we gave every site a literacy cart. I'm trying to get it on the camera. I'm not very good here. From Lakeshore Learning. And it's just full of games and manipulatives and things they can also do with their kids to help them with comprehension and fluency. Because we find that even our students that are in 3rd and 4th grade, because of the pandemic, are on like a 1st grade reading level. They're behind. They're behind not just 1 grade level, but sometimes 2 or 3. So we're having to go and like teach them phonics and how, and, you know, letter identification and putting words together. And so Marlene took all that data from last year and crunched it and worked with Lakeshore to put these carts together. And it's all based on those test scores and the identified areas that our kids need the most help in. Definitely, we start with all of our churches. They usually host a recruiting Sunday once a semester at those churches. We will ask our elementary schools to refer us to any organizations or churches or community partners that already support that school. So we'll reach out to them. And then, yeah, we use social media. We try everything, but mostly I will say our volunteers do come from churches. We have a 3-step application process. The first piece is just the application, and then you go through a background check. And then once the background check comes back and it's approved, then we require them to do ministry safe sexual abuse and awareness training. And then once they've completed that, we refer them to a site. And at the site level, we do our volunteer training. So we ask them to shadow a couple of sessions before they start, and then the site coordinator will work with them one-on-one to get them ready to, you know, integrate into that site. So that's kind of how it works. And then Whiz Kids as a whole, because we have anywhere from 800 to 1,200 volunteers a year. Yeah, we have a very large volunteer base. We do 1 comprehensive training for new volunteers each semester. So they can come to that. Any volunteer can come to, but we require our new volunteers to come to it. And when I say volunteers, I'm not just talking about mentors. So to make a Whiz Kids site run, you have transportation committee, you have people preparing food, and then you have your setup and cleanup crews. You have a site coordinator. Many of our sites have more than 1 site coordinator. They'll have like 3. And so the site coordinator's role is to like track the attendance of the volunteers, to make sure the Whiz Kids site is set up, to make sure that everything is, you know, going as planned during that, helping with the transportation at the end. And then you have a club time leader. You heard me talk about club time earlier. So usually the club time leader is somebody who might be from the host church and they lead that lesson. There's just lots of different roles at a Whiz Kids site. No, we do have templates or a curriculum that we provide to our sites that they can customize. And so some of our sites do customize it and run with what we send them. But some of our sites are like, no, you know, we kind of have some lessons that we want to teach, but we leave that up to our sites, right? Because it's their home, it's their church. As long as they're covering, you know, the pieces that we ask them to, we're good with it. A lot of times during that club time, our tutors will be pulled out. So the kids will be left in club time to hear the lesson. And during that time, our tutors are pulled out to meet with that teacher liaison from the school. And they're hearing from the teacher liaison how their kid is doing at school, how they're behaving in class, and then what their struggles might be. They're learning about that child's test scores, and maybe some strategies from the expert, the teacher, on how can I help with fluency or comprehension or reading skills. And so Marlene, who is our curriculum and education manager, she does a really good job of making sure our teacher liaisons have the tips and tools and strategies to teach our mentors every month. We have a really high Hispanic population with students right now. The majority of our students are probably Hispanic, and then African American, and then Caucasian. So those really are the three like largest demographic groups of our students. But the biggest thing to know is that we don't partner with every elementary school. We wish we could. We're selective in that we partner with schools that we identify as being the most at risk, having the most at-risk populations. Our students who aren't receiving services elsewhere in the school, we ask the classroom teachers to identify kids who aren't on IEPs or getting special services, because we're trying to help the ones that are kind of on the fringe, who could benefit from, you know, some help, but maybe they're not being identified as fitting into those other programs at the school. These are kids who maybe have some struggles at home, or if they just had some attention or some, you know, a teacher knows that. And so they're really good at sending us the kids that that we can make a difference for. Something that we introduced this year at Whiz Kids that's been pretty successful, that our mentors are really liking. We just made some little conversation cards that we keep at the tables, and they have like 3 or 4 questions on them. And so when they sit down with their students, they don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, like, how do I make conversation? It gives them kind of a guide, like, you know, ask them if they have a pet at home, or ask them to tell you what their favorite sport is and why. It's just conversation starters. And we find that it really helps our mentors connect with their kid, because sometimes there's the age difference or the, you know, the culture difference. And so, yeah, we found that just giving them conversation starters really helps. We really feel like God has had his hand on this program. That's what we like to say, because the pandemic was hard, just as I'm sure it's hard for all of the mentoring organizations out there. We've lost volunteers. We know our participation numbers dipped, our funding dipped, everything kind of dipped, but we're coming back strong. I think people are ready to get involved. There was you know, an article in the paper just a couple of days ago in the Daily Oklahoman talking about the state of academics in around Oklahoma City, and it said that like 84% of our students are below grade level in reading. And so that's why Whiz Kids is here. And I think that's why the work that we're all doing, all the mentoring organizations, is more important than ever. One of the mentors showed me a drawing her little boy had made of the planets, because the previous week's lesson had been on, you know, how God and creation and Genesis, right? And so he went home and like drew the entire solar system and brought it to her. And it was a beautiful thing. And so, you know, and she's like, I'm going to frame it and hang it in my house. And he was just so touched by all of that. And it's just stuff like that, you know, it just makes a difference.